Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Are you frustrated and stressed out with your professional and personal life? The Charge Podcast will help you get recharged. Yes, we are already in August of 2020. Time for schools to be opening up and students heading back to the classroom. Now this year, that may be not the case depending on where you're listening to this podcast. We decided this month we will talk about topics on education to share with you some experts on how they're handling educating students for today, tomorrow, and beyond. The goal of the Charge Podcast is for you to realize you can only control what you can control. Remember, our influence in life comes from the things we can control. You made a great choice in listening to this podcast. I think this quote sums it up best by Stephen R. Covey. I'm not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. Remember, the podcast is named Charged after my mantra, create habits around real goals every day. Let's get recharged in this podcast to influence a positive culture in our life each day. Are you ready? Chargers, I know you're always looking for opportunities to learn, grow, and develop. That's why you listen to the Charge Podcast. Well, most leaders struggle with communicating the goals of your business to get results. At the Leadership Navigator Academy, we've created a learning and development program that helps leaders hold themselves and their team accountable. When your leaders change behaviors, you see results in increased performance and a more engaged team, which increases profits. If you would like to learn more about the Leadership Navigator Academy, go to thechargepodcast.com and click on the L&A link to get all the information.
Welcome, Chargers. We're glad to have you back again this week for another great podcast. My goal each week is to find different guests with different viewpoints and with different areas that we can learn from. And today I think we've done that with Mitchell Earl. He's COO of Discover Praxis. It's a startup bootcamp and job placement program for entrepreneurial young professionals who want more than college. He's the author of Don't Do Stuff You Hate and frequently writes about how to navigate life and careers. He's radical about creating a better future and helping others do the same. Mitchell, welcome to the Charge Podcast.
Hey, thanks so much, Gary. Happy to be here.
I can't wait to get into this because I love entrepreneurship. I think is for everyone. I'm that type of person, but I love as young people get into it because I was very fortunate. I started out my career at a very young age being an entrepreneur, and it's been the best ride of my life. For 30 years, I've been doing it, about 12 to 15 different businesses. And I just think everyone, if they have that urge, they really need to move forward in that. So I can't wait to hear more of what you're doing with Praxis and how this works, and so you can share that with the audience. But before we do, I'd like to ask you one question. It's my mantra called Charge, create habits around real goals every day. What habit or habits do you think has led success in your life?
Yeah, that's a fantastic place to start. I know, and I was ready for this question. So in the introduction, you mentioned that I authored books called Don't Do Stuff You Hate, and I think that kind of lays out what's been one of the most valuable premises, in my life. And that's not something that I intentionally set out to govern my life by. It was more of an accident by faith, or an accident of fate. Excuse me. When I was looking back at my life, really getting out into the real world for the first time when I was in high school, college, and then even after college, is I didn't know what I wanted to do once I reached that point. I had this really clear vision until I got to college, and once I got out in the real world, everything changed. And I ran so many experiments in the real world, from washing dishes in the back of a kitchen to working in a restaurant, waiting tables, to delivering newspapers, to getting involved in an early stage startup. I did tons of different things. And as I accumulated all these different experiences, about 5 or 10 years down the road, looking back, like I realized I was running experiments that allowed me to cross things off the list that I didn't like. And that helped me narrow down my option set. And that's really become a guiding principle when I think about my life and career, relationships, and, what do I want in my life? It's a little bit easier to answer by defining the things that I don't want and avoiding those.
Yeah, that is a great one, because too many people, they get down the rabbit hole too far. And of course, they get of course, as we get more obligations, they feel like they're stuck more and they can't make those changes. And what you're talking about really is, if you want to make those changes, look at different things, find out what you don't like, and then really kind of hone in that. So was this part of kind of how Praxis came about? Tell me a little bit about that. Kind of how did you move forward in this area to be able to help those entrepreneurial young professionals?
Yeah, so it's definitely how Praxis came about in my life. So I was several years out of college. I had been, I was in that phase where I just mentioned running experiments in the real world. At that point in time, I had my sights set on law school and an MBA. And it's not because I really knew what I wanted to do. I had this belief that was the only next step to get me closer to, some semblance of clarity about my career. I knew that I wanted to be working in business or with businesses. I knew that I was starting to understand that I had somewhat of an entrepreneurial itch myself. And for some reason, I don't know why this was so difficult, but for some reason it was impossible for me to see a route to that didn't involve more school, because that's the only route that I think that I'd ever heard and been taught growing up for years and years. And that's when I met Isaac Morehouse, who was the founder of Praxis. I was weeks away from starting law school and about to make that leap. It's what everybody around me knew I was going to do. That was the expectation. I had to go do the thing smart kids do, the prestigious sounding career path. And that's when I met Isaac. And he challenged me, and he challenged me in a way that no one else to that point in my life had done before. He said, "What makes you come alive?" That was the question he asked me. And the more that we got to talking, just in a couple, chance encounters there, he challenged me. He said, "Hey, you sound like an ambitious young person. It sounds like you're searching for something. Give me 1 year. Let me make some introductions for you to people who are doing real, cool things that are exciting, some early stage companies and entrepreneurs that I think you'd be excited by. Give me 1 year. If it doesn't work out, go back to law school. It's always going to be there." And I thought, what the hell? I'm young. I have nothing to lose. I've got time. That's one thing that I do have to my advantage. So I pushed all my chips in, and I've never looked back since. And it was one of the best accidental decisions that I think I ever made.
Well, excellent. I love hearing how it came about and how you came about getting involved in it. So let's take that now, because from your story, what advice would you give to kind of a young person that's trying to figure out what they do want to do for their career?
Man, I love that question so much. I think the first thing that I'd say is take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and just chill out a little bit. I think that we feel this immense pressure. I know I sure did when I was young, but I think society and the cultural narrative and just the expectations and the ever-present information, like we're also interconnected. We know what everybody else is doing. There's this immense pressure. And I think that young people today feel it even more than I did when I was 17, 18, to have everything figured out. And, the fact of the matter is, most of us don't have it figured out. We are still constantly experimenting and evolving and learning and identifying new opportunities for ourselves. We're stubbing our toes still. That's the kind of message young people need to hear, is that no one ever has it all figured out the way things are going to happen for the rest of our life. And so cut yourself some slack and take a deep breath first. A better way to approach it in my mind has been, what's the highest, most valuable use of your next 12 months? It doesn't matter, don't worry about finding the one end all be all career path for the rest of your life. What are you interested in now? Where's an opportunity for you to learn more about that, or develop some skills around that interest, or earn some income and get some real world experience around that interest? Lean into that and follow that until that interest changes, or it evolves, or opens up a new exciting opportunity. But don't stress about figuring it all out right now.
I love that, because taking the deep breath, but I also love the other part of it. And one thing that I really thought of is, I heard this before, but I'm 53. And you know why people ask that's 53, ask someone that's in high school or college or someone that's young, what they're going to do?
What are you going to do when you grow up?
They're still trying to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's really, they want to
That's
hear
awesome.
what's going on there. And it's true because, you know, you don't at 53, I'm 53. I don't have the next 20 some years mapped out. I mean, I have things that I want to do, but now it's about what you said, even myself. So part of what I'm doing here is with the Chargers, somebody may think they're in their 40s. Well, this podcast is not for me. Yes, it is. You just have to reframe it. What do you want the next 12 months to be in your life?
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
in that area. So I just think it's so interesting to be able to really take a look at that. You know, when we look at our careers, we get certain advice wrong from people. And what is some of that career advice you see that really people get wrong?
Oh my gosh, this is another question I love to answer. And I think that, you know, I'm the guy waving the big banner that's like, most career advice sucks. I truly think that it does. I think that it's a relic of an era that is long past. And I think one of the most popular relics of career advice that's still being advocated in a lot of spaces is this idea of a linear career path. And the fact of the matter is, it's just wrong. People don't go work for IBM for 40 years and get a gold watch and retire anymore. That's not the way that the world works. And honestly, if you think that's the way the world works, then you're living under a rock, because technological change is coming for us all. We all have to change the way we work. We have to think about our careers differently. And today, when I think about careers, it's not how can I go secure employment for the rest of my life at a company that's going to offer me enough money to retire peacefully or whatever. It's about transforming my interests into income streams. And that could be as an employee. It could be as a creator. You know, maybe you're artistic, or you know, you like to write, or podcasts like this. There's so many avenues to transform your interests into income today, but it starts with following your interests and building some skill sets around those, and then leveraging all of the tools and resources that are out in the world today, versus trying to figure out how someone else can protect you. And that's kind of been the traditional relationship, employee, employer, you know, the rise of the corporations in the last century, where people wanted to go work for a really good company that they knew was going to be around for a long time because they had the rest of their lives planned out. And that security just doesn't exist today. And you'd be hard pressed to be making bets that working for one company for the rest of your life is the safest investment to be making.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true, because, you know, when you find out what those interests are, that really starts to you get to discover then some of those income streams and some of those possibilities that become there. It's cool. It's very interesting, because it's probably been 3 or 6 months that I had a futurist on my podcast.
Yeah.
And the one industry that he saw that was going to be disrupted, what do you think it was, Mitchell?
I'm not sure. I was going to say law or banking or the medical field, like all of those.
Higher education.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously that's the space I'm in. So
yeah, the space you're in. That's why I brought it up, because I see it. And part of my question here for you is to really share what you do with Praxis, because, you know, we'll share your website so they can research and be able to check you out. But what Praxis actually does, kind of share that with them, because I think this really sets up with what you are trying to do to really allow young people to realize that you don't always have to go the traditional route. You get out of high school and you go to college, that's there. You can do that. That's fine. Like you said, you decide not to go on to law school. You gave that 1 year that's there. So maybe it's after you get that education that you want to, but for some, that doesn't fit them. And that so many people are trying to fit them in the mold and say, where are you going to college? You know, I've just got a senior this year that just graduated, and she gets asked all the time, what are you going to be, you know, and where are you going to school?
Yeah.
It's like, it's an automatic that they have to, where you don't always have to go the traditional route.
Yeah. I think I take for granted that I live in a world where I already believe higher education has been disrupted. Most people just haven't taken notice yet. Okay. And I'll give you some key indicators of that. Like, companies right and left are removing degree requirements. They are removing those from job postings. They recognize that's not necessarily the best indicator of talent, But even beyond that, we work with companies all over the country. They're not interested in a degree. What they are interested in is operational efficiency, finding talent easier. Like finding talent and hiring is a burden on a small team. And so they look for proxies. A degree is an easy thing. It's a lazy way, it's a lazy way to vet and filter talent out. So if you're a young person out there, like stop worrying about whether you have a degree or not. Do you have some skills? Do you have some interest? Do you have something that makes you come alive? People want to work with people who are inspired and interested and interesting to be around. Those types of things are going to get you way farther in your life and career. If you're just an interesting person, you like learning new things, you like exploring new ideas, you like teaching yourself stuff. If you take your hobbies and you transform them into something new, like for instance, I was talking to like a 18, 19, somebody early on, just out of high school a couple of weeks ago, and talking about how she had an interest in a specific type of storytelling. She had like 30 plus chapters on this extended story she'd created over the past few years. She has like 3,000 people read her content every time she publishes a story, and she's making money on that. You don't have to turn your hobbies into money, but you can still build an audience. You can still build followers. You can build some sphere of influence. And ultimately, if you can do that, that's an opportunity to either, get hired or make money. And so when I think about a lot of the pressure those young people feel is, we've done them a disservice. We've done them a disservice telling them, that from the time that they started school, that college is the only next way to a successful life. And that, the dreaded statistic we all hear is, people who have college degrees on average make $1 million more during their career than people without college degrees. Well, that doesn't factor in is the 4 years of income you're not earning. And today, the giant student debt bubble, like the giant student debt load most people are walking out of college is, like the opportunity cost of your time is worth so much more. Go get some experience, go figure out what you like to do. And then if you are interested in diving really deep into that, maybe college is still worth exploring. But by that time, chances are you won't even need it.
Yeah, good advice. So how does the picture fit in then with Praxis? How do you all go from, it's great to know your interest and be able to develop that, but then how do you all fit into the picture when you're looking at that person that really, okay, they're trying to explore some of those interests? How does that fit into the picture of really getting that person to find that career, at least at that time that they really want to explore and go forward with? Yep.
So Praxis is a 6-month boot camp with guaranteed job placements for graduates and a lifelong professional community. And what our program is designed to do is help people discover and do what makes them come alive. And I don't say that as a cliche. The way that the boot camp is designed is very much front loaded with what I like to call career discovery. You are going to dive in deep to what, to understanding what a business is, how it works, what are the core functions of a business, and explore those roles. And as our participants go through that, usually they begin to gravitate toward one or two role types. Our sweet spot is across non-technical roles like sales, marketing, customer support, operations, skills that are critical for anybody who wants to go start their own thing someday. You need to know how to sell. You need to know how to market and package your product. You need to know how to handle customers. You need to know how to think about your business operationally. Those are invaluable skills for you to develop. And so our participants go through a deep dive on all of those functions as they get a sense for, hey, these are the one or two roles that I'm really interested in going deep on and maybe starting my career in. They build projects around those roles. They're getting constant feedback. They're doing workshops. They're interacting with their peers, with advisors, with hiring managers in the real world. And then they're building value propositions for businesses and pitching them on how they can bring value to their businesses in these specific roles versus just passively applying. And that entire process, our graduates come out with a very strong sense of how to navigate their careers and a value creation mindset. It is not going into a business as an entry-level employee and looking for assignments. It's, oh my gosh, there are all these problems, and why not me? Why can't I fix these things? And that makes people more valuable. But what it also does is it helps them reframe their career as this series of opportunities for them to deliver value to other people. And that's a tremendous, that's such an awesome outcome to be part of. Like, it's such rewarding work. But the best part is like people are getting hired at great jobs in 6 months, and they're making on average as much as college graduates are.
Yeah. And
with no debt.
Yeah, with no debt. Well, and just what you said, the one statement of value creation mindset. If people have that, I mean, that's a difference maker in your organization. I've hired a lot of people over the years, and most of them come in and they're expecting something from the employer.
Yep.
It's a two-way street. I tell people all the time when I used to interview, it's about a win-win. You're supposed to bring a set of skills and capabilities with you, and people that have that type of mindset just have a different way to work and think about the workplace that's there. So that's very exciting. And we'll get your information and have you share the website and everything here at the end. So I know there's some people that's interested, but even as employers, I think that's the key there in businesses, because it's a mindset. I'll be quite honest. You're not getting out in the world right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very rare.
And it kind of fits in with what my futurist buddy said, is the change, that in 6 months you can create, and that's what he saw that was going to happen. And it's happening now, as you said, Mitchell, is that in 6 months, you can really get a skill set that then you can go out and apply. And there's going to be more careers. And if you're in your 20s now, I mean, it's going to be amazing how many different careers that you're going to be able to have. And you may want the entrepreneurial side, but if you don't, then you're going to be able to fluctuate in the different careers that fit you, that you're really excited about. So when you're looking at this, to be able to kind of put it all together, you're kind of talking about leading a self-directed life.
Absolutely.
So how can someone kind of, we've talked about different ways, but what would be some real keys that you think they really need to do if they want to lead that self-directed life?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is you've got to take charge of your own learning. You have to take personal agency over your own life. I'm alone and responsible for my decisions, my choices, my actions, how I spend my time, how I spend my money. But regardless, it doesn't matter what you fixate on, what your goals are, what you want out of life. The only way you're getting there is if you take the steps, you start moving toward that thing. College is not going to help you do that. Just like, there's no other entity in the world. Like you can just go pay them and they're going to give you the life you want. You have to put in the work, whether you go to college or not. You're going to have to put in the work. I talk to college grads all the time who, they feel duped because they thought on the other side of college was, this grass is greener. Somebody's going to hand me the job I want. I'm going to have, the happily ever after American dream. And that's just not the case. You still have to put in the work regardless what route you take. I always like to tell our participants and anybody that's interested in the program, this phrase that I heard from, a great motivational speaker when I was, just a teen. His name's Bill Cordes, and he used to say, "Yo-go whippy," which stands for you only get out what you put in. And that is the secret to all life. And when I think about, building your own life and getting what you want out of it, like that has to be a self-directed process. If it's not, inertia is making those decisions for you. The people in your life, those influences, they're dragging you along. And I think that this is why, we see so many people, they get into their 30s and they're looking around. They're like, I have a mortgage. I'm still paying off student debt. I don't particularly love my job. I'm having a midlife crisis because I don't know what the hell I want out of my life. And whatever it is, I know that there's gotta be more. I want people to avoid that. And I think that it starts by getting really deliberately honest with yourself and taking inventory of the things in your life, crossing off the things you don't like, and then moving on.
Yeah. What great advice. I mean, for anyone to really decide, what do you want? Because number one, life is too short anyway. I mean, if somebody would have told you I'm 53 already, I would have said, no way, but it moves at a rapid pace. So find the things that you enjoy, and then be able to move forward that. And I hope some of our young people, I call my audience members chargers, it's about charging, And one thing I learned through that exercise is I used to be a charger when I was that young person. And the only problem was I was the rhinoceros. And the rhinoceros are known for charging, but they charged over people.
Yeah.
And where I really learned about things is when I started working with people, and I was still a charger after the careers and goals that I had, I was able to achieve more. And I love what you talked about is really take responsibility for your learning.
Yep.
And that's any age today, because the cool thing is there's so many tools out there and so much available to us that we can be relearning a tool in a short amount of time, and you can change anything in your life that you want. Well, Mitchell, I really appreciate you sharing that information, some great information. Why don't you share now, if they wanted to check out your company and the organization, where do they need to go?
Yeah, go to discoverpraxis.com. We've got a great program guide you can download and read, kind of in-depth everything about the program, success stories, case studies, testimonials, or frequently asked questions. Or send me an email, mitchell@discoverpraxis.com. I love talking to people. I love, whether our program's right or not, I love helping people make that decision, figure out like, what's the next step? What's the highest values in my next 12 months? So feel free to drop me a line anytime.
Okay, great. I appreciate you sharing that. And we'll have that in show notes too at chargepodcast.com. So if you're active or you're driving, don't try to write it down as you're driving or you're cutting the grass or whatever it is at this time. We want you to be able to get that information. So just go to chargepodcast.com. We're going to jump into the recharge round. I'm going to ask you 6 questions, kind of rapid fire here, and see what you believe in these. But we talked a little bit about this, but how do you believe your mindset affects your daily living?
I think it's key. I think that it's very easy to get imbalanced, and you have to manage yourself. That's the most important thing. Manage yourself, figure out how you can maintain your emotions, positive, negative, and then do that. You have to do that. And that's a personal thing. I think that we all operate differently.
Yeah. Excellent advice. What do you do daily to bring energy in your life? I think they could tell we both have quite a bit of energy from our voices, and we get excited about, because I could tell you were talking about what you love. I was learning, and that's there. But what brings that energy to you?
Yeah, honestly, the thing that I found is most valuable for me consistently, there's 2 things. It's going on walks, and that's like spending some time just in my thoughts alone, just thinking about the bigger picture. And then the other thing is just creating, whether that's writing and publishing or creating something that's valuable to my work or helping another person, whatever it is, just the process of taking those thoughts and doing something with them.
Yeah, doing what you love. How about the number 1 connection or maybe relationship that's made the biggest impact on your life?
Yeah, I don't want his head to get too big if he does listen to this, but I think that it has to be Isaac Morehouse, because I know that, had somebody not challenged me at that point in my life to think critically about where I was, I'd be an attorney right now, and I'd probably be in a massive amount of student debt, and I'd be unhappy. And so I'm glad that he stopped me in my tracks with a big challenge.
Yeah. And that's the key, is where mentors come into your life. And if you allow them to, can really make that major difference in your life. How about what advice has influenced you the most in your life?
Oh man, I don't want to plug myself, but I truly think that the idea of don't do stuff you hate, which is something that was both learned and also kind of by observing mentors, is like, we all operate so much better when we're doing stuff that we enjoy, when we're lost in work that brings us, makes us come alive. And I think life has gotten a lot better for me whenever I embrace that advice.
Yeah, great advice. I'll have to check out the book. I love the title of your book there. How about this one? Recommend a book that you love and share why you think it's a great book.
Yeah, so I think my most recommended book is going to be, recently changed, and I think it's got to be How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen, who's just an amazing innovator, brilliant thinker who we recently lost, early 2020. But check out his book. This one is phenomenal. It breaks down, how do you achieve a life, worth living? How do you make sure that, the relationships in your life continue to bring you joy? And how do you achieve success? Those are 3 big questions I think we all wrestle with. It's a great book. Check it out.
Okay. We'll have that in show notes for you too. Also, if you want to check it out. Last sentence for you. You made it through the recharge round. What legacy do you want to leave the world?
Yeah. So something my dad told me always growing up that's been a huge influence on me is I think it finally stuck, is he told me, everybody you meet should be better off for knowing you. And I've thought about that a lot over the years. And I think that there's definitely times that I failed, but for the most part, that's my aim. And what I have, this is a key thing that I've learned though, is I don't care if people like me or not. I want them to be better off for knowing me. And they're, that means that I want to challenge other people to be better, just like I want them to challenge me to be better. And I truly want, if nothing else, that's what I want want my legacy to be, and the rest is just details.
Well, you're living that legacy, Mitchell, because today, our Chargers and even myself included, we're better off for getting to know you today of being on the Charge podcast. And I think some great information that you shared. And I love your passion for young people and really being able to take a look and really picture what does that life need to be and what do you want it to be. And even if you're not that young person, there's information, there's things I took out of this that I'm going to implement into my life. So anyone can really get information that's there. So I just can't thank you enough for saying yes to the Charge podcast.
Yeah, I'm flattered. And thanks, Gary. This has been fun.
Well, share again with them the website and your email, and we'll also have it in show notes for them.
Yeah, for sure. Go check us out at discoverpraxis.com or shoot me a line, Mitchell@discoverpraxis.com. Happy to chat anytime.
And remember, we'll have that at chargepodcast.com so you can check it out. Chargers, if you're not charged up now, because Mitchell and I was charged up during this podcast, something's wrong. The key, though, is what are you going to do with it? You've got great information. Now go back and either check out the show notes or check out some of the information that Mitchell shared with us that we have there, or take action. What do you want to do? What's the next step you're going to do? Maybe what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? And then figure out how you're going to learn that over this next 6 months and make those changes in your life. Chargers, I can't thank you enough for watching or listening to the Charge podcast. And I can't wait to see you back here next week. Make it a great day. We'll see you soon.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.